Hello everyone, welcome to 10-Minute Physiology. In today's video, I'm going to give you a short explanation as to what secondary active transport is. So with that, let's give it a go. So there are two types of secondary active transport. The first type is called cotransport or symport, and the second type is called exchange or antiport. So we'll start off by talking about what cotransport is, then we'll finish off the video by talking about what exchange is. So in order to understand what these two things are, we're going to look at two real-life examples in different cells in the body that show what these two things are. So let's look at the first one. So the first thing to understand is that the sodium concentration outside the cell is a lot greater than the sodium concentration inside the cell. So in order to understand symport, we're going to use a specific example. So the first step in order to get symport working is to have active transport. So remember, the main mechanism of active transport in the cell is going to be the sodium-potassium pump. And what the sodium-potassium pump does is it pumps 3 sodium out of the cell and 2 potassium into the cell. And it does this by using the energy released by the hydrolysis of ATP. So a prime example of a symporter or cotransporter inside the cell is going to be a specific transporter called SGLT1. So what SGLT1 is going to do is it's going to bring 1 sodium into the cell and along with it 1 glucose. So how is it doing this? Well, what this transporter is doing is it's coupling the downward movement of the sodium ion to the uphill movement of glucose. So in other words, glucose is moving up against its concentration gradient. And this is going to be achieved by coupling the movement of glucose with the downhill movement of sodium. So why does this work? Well, remember that the sodium-potassium pump is going to be pumping 3 sodiums out of the cell against the concentration gradient. Now, because of this, there is a stored energy. So there's a stored energy that's being formed by the sodium-potassium pump. Now, when you bring sodium from the outside of the cell to the inside of the cell, this releases energy. And this energy can be used by this cotransporter to bring glucose into the cell against its concentration gradient. So this is what cotransport is. So cotransporters are proteins that move 2 solutes in the same direction. Now, in a similar circumstance, we have another protein that does exchange. And this protein that I bring up is NHE3, so the sodium hydrogen ion exchanger 3. So basically what this does is it brings 1 sodium into the cell and it brings out 1 hydronium ion. So it does this in the similar way that the cotransporter does this. So the sodium-potassium pump basically pumps sodium against its electrochemical gradient out of the cell. And when it does this, this causes a storage of energy. And then when sodium is brought back into the cell, this releases energy that allows the exchanger to bring hydronium out of the cell into the extracellular fluid against its concentration gradient. So active transport moves solutes against their gradient using energy directly released by ATP or GTP hydrolysis. Secondary active transport couples the uphill movement of one molecular ion with the downhill movement of another. So in order to understand what this means, let's actually look at an analogy. So let's just say you have a person, and this person is conducting an experiment. And this person is on a platform that is above ground, as we can see here. So let's just say on top of this platform, we have a bowling ball. And this bowling ball is a specific height above the ground. Now, those of you that have taken physics would know that this ball has gravitational potential energy, and it can be calculated by this equation. So in other words, the higher the ball is, the greater the amount of potential energy it has. And this potential energy can be released if the ball were to drop off the platform. So the ball has potential energy or stored energy that'll be released if it falls. So when it falls, the energy is released. Now let's just say we have a similar circumstance, but in this case we have a balloon. So if we were to release the balloon would float all the way up. So what do we learn from these two things? So the first thing is that if the bowling ball is released, it will fall down the hill, releasing its stored energy, whereas the balloon will float upward if it's released. So what would happen if we put these two things together? Well, if we tied the balloon to the bowling ball and kicked it off the hill, what would happen is that the bowling ball would drag the balloon down with it. So this is actually very similar to what happens in cotransport. So the person in this case is using the potential energy released by the downhill movement of the bowling ball in order to bring the balloon down against its gradient. So remember that the ball's natural course of movement is going to be from the top of the hill to the bottom of the hill when it's released, whereas the balloon's natural course of movement will be from the top of the hill all the way up to the atmosphere. But when we tied the balloon to the bowling ball, the balloon was forced down with the bowling ball. And the reason why is because the bowling ball released energy, which will allow the balloon to be dragged down with it. This is very similar to secondary active transport, in this case, cotransport. So in secondary active transport, the transporter uses the energy released by bringing one ion or molecule down its gradient to drive the movement of another ion or molecule against its gradient. So in summary, we talked about what secondary active transport is, and we talked about the two different types of it. I hope this video helped you understand what it is, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.